Good evening and welcome to episode 11. Bloody hell, I'm doing this for 11 weeks. Episode of 11 of Fizzy Brain. My name is Aubrey Blakeledge and Fizzy Brain is this, a stream, vlog, podcasty, vanity project thing, talking to you, sharing the ins and outs of creativity from the viewpoint of a bearded, fizzy-brained beard wizard bard thing, which is me telling you lovely people who keep me on the road what it's like to be on the road as a modern self-employed performer slash musician slash shouty person, and also sharing with you lovely people the lengths I will go to avoid doing actual work. Okay, so as always, as well, I have a drink in my hand and banging neighbours upstairs. The show is split into two parts. Part one is what I'm meant to be working on, all the things that are part of keeping me on the road, keeping me going as a performer, whether it be writing, working, doing gigs, doing shows, doing bits of work to keep me going, that sort of thing, and other projects and such that I'm working on. And then part two is the weird stuff, creative or not, that actually has no benefit at all to my job, my profession, but is a benefit to me being the way I am, distracting me, keeping me calm, or just utter rubbish, like visiting a gun shop for shits and giggles. More about that in previous episodes. Yes, so a little bit more of the housekeeping. I will be describing what I'm talking about a lot more as if there's people listening on the audio, because eventually this will be sorted out into a podcast at some point. Now they're on episode 11, I still haven't done that, I should probably do that. And it will be available for people to listen to as an audiobook or as a download if you follow on Patreon, but more about Patreon as such later on. So before we talk about what I'm working on, let's talk about, very quickly do a quick run through of what gigs are coming up. I'll mention them at the end of the show just as a piece of reference. So all tickets for ticketed gigs are available at ticketsource.co.uk/awkward strawberry. The link will be in the description of this thing, because that's where it puts all the bits and pieces for that. And so today is the 11th of February, tomorrow is the 12th of February, and I am hosting my second pub quiz at the Dell in Southampton. And I'll tell you a little bit about the first one, which was entertaining. So on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, I'm doing the return of the Awkward Strawberry Club here in Southampton at the Hobbit, featuring a selection of international artists, and also Grant Sharkey, who's the opposite of international, because he lives down the road. We've got then on the 27th of February, I'm up to Swindon with the Tuppenny, also known as the Tup, with Mr. B-SYDES. Then on the 28th of February, I'm off to Newstead, the Pit, with Mr. B-SYDES and Sam Tucker. But we may not have Madam Misfit, because Madam Misfit is going through the ringer at the moment. Dear Sarah has had problems with her voice, and also she's had problems, it looks like, with her knees, because she has a recurring injury from when she was in the Royal Air Force. More details about that, go and check out her social media, and wish her all the best as well, because she's absolutely lovely, and does need a bit of friendly reassurance every now and then, so feel free to do that. Then we've got the 1st of March. I'm not going to do all my listings, just a couple of short ones. So the 1st of March, return to London with Mr. Tom B. Wilde, another free entry gig. And then the 19th of March, I'm doing something silly at the MAST Theatre in Southampton. So if you want to see me do some theatre, come along to that. It's just a bit of a mix. Right, so that's what I'm currently working on. So the gigs and such that are going on. What have I been actually working on so apart from day-to-day admin? I'm not going to bore you with my spreadsheets, because I've learnt this to my great expense, that as much as I fucking love a good spreadsheet, everyone else, apart from one person, Kaz Hibbs, who shares my passion and love of a well-organised spreadsheet, everyone else finds them mind-numbingly dull. So I've been doing admin, which means setting up spreadsheets, preparing myself to do my first full tax return as a predominantly self-employed person, which is terrifying, because like the calm before the storm, I received one of my first payment checks as for my part-time work, which I'm using to pay my rent and such, and because my part-time work is so few hours, I don't get taxed on it, which means all my taxes will now be coming out of the self-assessment thing. So it's that feeling, the tax equivalent of that thing before a tsunami, where all of the water gets drained away from the coast, and then a fucking wall of death comes towards you. That's basically how I feel with my taxes at the moment. So I'm kind of just wanting fucking tax season to start so I can do my tax return as soon as possible and see how big this wall of death is going to fucking be. If you wonder what that noise was, I was clapping along nervously, by the way, those of you on the audio. So yes, and also there's a blind bit of panic in my eyeballs, for those of you who are listening on audio because you can't see it. But yes, I'm excited about a fucking tax return with a sense of trepidation and an adrenaline-fueled fear that you would get from doing skydiving, because I fucking love spreadsheets, I love admin, and this is the closest thing to base jumping someone that does any form of accountancy would do, which is having different tax codes and a different tax amount that's moving from one area to another. Yeah, it does mean more money is coming out in a weird way, but then also not. I just need to find out what the damage is. So that's coming together. So sorting out all my bits and pieces of my paperwork from that, sorting out invoices and other such things, because all of those things now I'm doing as a self-employed person, like is all my wages. I was doing it before, now it's even more mad. So they're all over the place. I just reading the chat, there's quite a few of the people in this chat right now are actually saying they do love a good spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet friendly zone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 people are actually saying, 4 people, beg your pardon, are saying how much they love spreadsheets, which is fine. I know people recommending different kinds of spreadsheet technology, including someone uses it to organise the kitchen at work. Yeah, spreadsheets are great. I fucking love spreadsheets, even if they're run by the stupid Microsoft Corporation. You can even enjoy Excel at times. But yeah, so spreadsheets are being done, all that kind of prep work, all that kind of rubbish, and the admin is being sorted out. One thing I didn't enjoy in the admin world, which is listings, putting listings up, particularly Facebook events, which is what some people actually still use as a valid tool to find what's going on, particularly of an evening. Found out about this, people absolutely love using Facebook events to find gigs, but in a way that they don't like or say they're going on the event. They just look at the event and go, yes, I will go to that this week, and then go. So I have no idea how it's positively affecting. I just get told by people that it's positive and useful and such, which is great. So I just have to do them, even though on the actual events it says like 3 people turn up and then 20 people fucking turn up. And yeah, so it's one of those things. It's like shooting blindly into a darkened room. It's just one of those things that I need to do. But they're also really fucking tedious to set up 20 odd Facebook events. And then for some reason they don't upload properly, because there's always things when you tag stuff in Facebook and it just doesn't work for no fucking reason. It's just that. So yes, I've been having admin heaven by sorting out my spreadsheets and refining some of the formulas, and then admin hell of having to do anything related to Facebook. Yeah, so there's that. But and also I think as well, because it's sort of connected to Facebook and social media, what I'm trying to do, and a lot of people have been taking me up on the offer, which is fantastic, have been, I'm trying to get people to use Patreon as a way of keeping an eye on what I'm doing, and I don't just mean by paying for it, but there's free accounts where I put my listings up, so people, I'm just trying to find easier ways of connecting, because it kept connecting with my audience of what people are actually doing, what I'm doing, and what I'm working on, and obviously this works really, really well, because you guys have all these links of what I'm doing. That works great. Patreon's great because you just have the material, what you're looking for, and then you got Facebook, which is basically like a toddler that has attention deficit disorder, that you've just wandered into their house, and you're like a favourite uncle, and they want to show you every piece of crap that they found in the house. About 1 to 2% of that is really interesting. The rest of it is any old crap. And occasionally they go into the toilet and pick out their own turds and try to show you that as well. That's the best sort of analogy for Facebook that I can think of. And then the rest of social media is just a pile of piss as well. So it's not really useful. But yeah, so I've been constantly juggling social media to try and make that work, and doing weird. Some people might have seen some of the weird videos and such, and photographs I've been making to advertise streams, to advertise Twitch on other platforms, because they all seem to think that everyone is just going to use one app and that's all they ever use, which is mental, and yet they still persist in making our lives difficult. just got a message from the chat saying Blue Sky is not bad. True, it's been all right. I've been connecting with loads of musicians, but the audience isn't there. So there's lots of creative people there. So if you haven't used Blue Sky, it's basically Twitter, but they actually tell the Nazis to fuck off as a sort of company. It seems they actually get hate material and tell them to piss off. And there's also lots of artists and such putting on there because it's a lot more intuitive to put videos and photographs on that, and also it's easier to sort of keep an eye on what people are posting. So yeah, it will go shit like everything eventually, but you know, it's all right at the moment. That reminds me, actually, if you're looking for a sort of to get that dopamine social media fix without having to worry about slipping into GB News or whatever, like TikTok does after about 5 videos. It just pushes you towards GB News, even though you just want to look at kittens. I want to look at kittens dancing, but no, GB News. Try using Vinted. I found that Vinted gives you the exact same dopamine hit as going through social media. Good evening. Sorry, some new people joining us in the chat. Good evening, the Shiny Baron. Nice name. So, like I said, if you're looking for that sort of dopamine fiddly hit without having to get a silly level of, well, mindless crap you get from social media, get Vinted, and what you can do is you can scroll through their stuff. Their algorithm gets changed based on what things you like, and you just find clothes you really like, and then you can like... then you can like it and it goes into your favourites, and then sometimes your favourites get sold, and then sometimes they stay and it changes it around. So what you can do is just flick through looking at pretty things and liking them occasionally, and you don't actually have to buy them all the time. Sometimes you really feel like you do, but most of the time you can just collect them and then later look through your favourites and cull them off and get them and keep them. And I find that, yes, I mean, I've already got people screaming from the chat saying, please do not tell my other half to use Vinted, but it's probably less damaging in the long term than Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or anything else, just looking at clothes and maybe buying them really cheaply for them. But yes. Oh, Francesca says, good evening. Good evening. Welcome to whatever this is, this madness. We're talking about what I'm currently working on, and what I've been working on is social media. And we've got a thing for the book club. Perfect. I'll bring that up later on. So, we've got the events. We talked about Madam Misfit. We've got, so the album itself. I have decided, because I've had so many people coming up and joining the Patreon, which is marvellous, including lots of free members, as well as you loyal people that have been spending money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting the Fizzy Brain on demand available to all Patreon levels. If you're a free member, you'll get all the back catalogue for you to have a listen to, have a watch, download it for yourself as a thank you. And for those of you who are paying, what I'm going to be starting to do is, because I'm trying to work together with some chums about building the new album, I've started the songs. There's like about 4 or 5 songs that I want to start putting into the set and playing around with whilst doing the demoing and such and testing them out. And so what I'm going to do is record a few of them as a sort of like video session like this, very low key, very, very simple. And I'm going to upload them onto the Patreon and also put a downloadable version on it, which will be available to paid people as well. So I'm basically at the moment been drilling some of those songs. Hopefully going to get some ready for the weekend for the Awkward Strawberry Club, because I'm just comparing. It sounds like I'm just getting 2 acts and judging them against each other. Comparing Master of Ceremony, and so I want to get a couple of songs ready for that. So I've been practicing those and working those. But as soon as I'm comfortable with it and I got it cupped in my cracked into the old brain box, I'm going to record a version for you guys to put on Patreon. Also, when that set is ready, those 4 or 5 tracks that I'm thinking about putting in the set, I will do a Fizzy Brain where I will play them as well, so you can have a listen. And I'll just basically do it sort of like a little preview concert here on Twitch for you lovely, 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 lovely people. Yes, so working on the tracks, which has been good. That's been piling along. A few more demos have been going into that. It's been slowing down with getting the actual sort of proper demos recorded, because Mike and his little one have been going through, well, Mike, Sarah and their little one have been going through a rotation where one of them is exploding out both ends of themselves like a vomit and diarrhea tube worm, and then one recovers, then another one gets it, and then that recovers, then another one gets it, and sometimes two of them get it, and then one of them gets it, and they swap it around. So the house has been 95% vomit for the last couple of weeks. So obviously, I don't want to go in there in case I shit myself to death. So, yeah. So there is that, but we are, which is why I'm going to do these recorded versions, because I want to start working on them. I want to start getting into the set, because you know the spring tour is coming closer and closer and closer. Not in a terrifying way like the tax return, but in a fun kind of way, like we need to get this ready. So I want to get that material into those shows, start working them through, start betting them better, and then dicking around with them. Okay, so yes, so that's the catch up with the album. I've just noticed at the corner of my eye the chat is actually getting quite chatty with each other, which is lovely. I'll catch up when I can, when I go through it, because I want to keep going with my flow. But there seems someone's mentioned Sharp, and also various other things, and Salisbury. So things are occurring. And if you're listening to this on the audio, or listening again on YouTube or wherever, join us on Twitch, because it's much more entertaining. Because we shout at each other and weird discussions happen after the end of the show. So, we've talked about the shows, we've talked about the demos. The Quizmaster thing, it's at Southampton Football Club. This is something that I didn't expect to actually be mentioning on this stream, because I didn't think it'd be interesting enough. Me hosting a pub quiz doesn't really sound like something that would be of any interest, because it's just one of those things. I turn up, do a pub quiz, and go home. But it's turned into a delightful sort of weird thing in a really quite good way, and in a quite kind of terrifying way. Because at first, so I turned up to do the first one last week, and for those of you who don't know, Southampton Football Club have got a new bar in the bottom of it. It used to be a ticket office, which has been turned into a bar called the Dell. And it's sort of an upmarket bar in a really weird place, so it's sort of got things working against it. They decided to open it in January, of all places, so that's a stupid idea. But there's a lot of effort behind it from the club itself to make this bar work. So they're trying to they've got a bit more money to get it to work, so if it goes wrong, they'll build on it, if that makes sense. So one of the things they did is they hired a company that I do some work with to do the pub quiz. And so they've been trying to sort of advertise it a bit better and trying these different approaches. And the first event, we had 3 tables in, all members of staff, and one of those members, or one of those tables of staff actually played. So what we had is, considering this thing has all the bells and whistles, you can plug your phone into the wall that plugs into the stereo system. They have wireless microphones wired into the system and all this sort of thing. I ended up doing it, what I called it, acoustically, because I could literally just sit in a chair facing the table and we just talked and the table played against itself. Now, obviously, long term, that is not a great way of doing a pub quiz, because people will be like, why the fuck are we paying you money to entertain one table at a time? We're told that this week we're building on it, we're getting more people to come along, but we had a really good laugh, and it was a great way of me sort of testing the water of what kind of stuff works, and like presenting it and chatting away. And we basically just dicked around for 2 hours doing the thing. Tomorrow, when the next one is, I'm hoping to got a couple more tables who are coming down. Wessex Girl in the chat has said they've got a colleague who's keen to come along, which would be smashing, so more the merrier. And so yeah, we're going to see if we can make it a sort of regular thing, start building on it and start playing some new ideas. And it was, so it's one of those things, is like, it could have been a dumpster fire, but it ended up being quite a bit of fun. And because what I don't want to do is have to rely on the fact that I have to message all my mates and go, please come along to this pub quiz, because that won't last long term. That will just be a flash in the pan, it'll fall apart. We need to work as getting this pub to basically go, you need to advertise your pub and get people coming here. Because pub quizzes should be basically easy as pie to sell. So we'll see. So the reason I want to tell you about it, because I want to see if this could either be they dump it in a couple of months, or it could end up growing into something interesting. And if it turns into something interesting, this weird sort of shitty one table start is a good fun point to start before we head off into a new horizon and discover new things. So yes, so at the moment a bit shit, but we can see where it goes. So just going to take a quick sip of my drink and then we'll carry on. So the last thing from what's been useful to do with the shows and the gigging and the making the money and being a musician, I got a lovely email from a friend of mine who has been performing for many years, and he's been trying to remember to send me an email of useful bits and pieces of information to know from their experiences as a self-employed musician, and ideas that work and what don't, and just basically just this lovely rambling but really useful email that was basically so much information I had to have a sit down and a packet of crisps just to sort of deal with it. I don't know if you've ever gotten one of those sort of info dump emails from someone where all of the information is really, 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 really important, but there's so much useful information, your brain overloads and you fucking melt in your chair and you think, I need to take this in, but I'm just not. Maybe if I stare at it even longer, maybe some of it will go in. And I've saved the email on my account. I've put flagged it and put pins in it so I know to keep on looking at it, and just hoping that some of this information goes in. So if you have sent me an email offering support and ideas, I am reading it. It's just that there's so much information and so much stuff to do that my brain is falling out of my ear hole. So, if you've ever offered me, sent me help, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not disrespecting what you sent. It's just that people have so much useful information that I can only take it in small little doses. Right. Okay, my friends. That's the end of part 1. The stuff that I'm meant to be doing as a professional performer. After this short break, we shall have what I've actually been doing instead. So before we go any further, here's a couple of messages from our sponsors. Spoons. They're fucking great. Thanks for that lovely message from our sponsors. Now, part 2 of tonight's broadcast, as always, is what I'm actually doing. So normally I put the British Rail Book Club in the first part because it's sort of an important part of travelling around. But this time, it's not been because I've been travelling, because I've not had any gigs. I had a weekend off. It was really fucking weird. I had 3 days of nothing. It was really strange. But it was my birthday weekend. So I got a rug, which I really like. I got some makeup, which I really like. A series of books and a crocheted... actually, get him out. I think he's in here. I don't think he is. Well, you'll probably see him because I'll put him on social media. But I was given for the book club when I'm listening to audiobooks a crochet aubergine. So when I travel to the next set of shows, the next set of gigs, I'm going to be knitting a tiny happy-faced crochet aubergine while listening to audiobooks. So yeah, the British Rail Book Club is going to keep on evolving. So for those of you who don't know, if you're new to the stream, because we've got quite a few newbies this week, I have the hashtag British Rail Book Club, which basically is very, very straightforward and simple, which many of you have seen on social media from me. If you actually I said it in a way like it makes it sound like it's a fucking big hashtag like hashtag Six Nations or hashtag Kanye West is a fucking Nazi. But this one is quite straightforward. It's like whenever I'm on a train, the book that I take along with me with my travelling cases, this is what I'm reading while on the train. And it changes around because I'm constantly looking at different books, picking them up in weird places, and just asking people what they're reading and what they're looking at. This week has not been one of those travelling books. It is a book that was given to me for my birthday. And it's great because my friends have... it's really nice when people understand... I think... Let's try that sentence again. It used to be when you said you like music, people would find you new records knowing your sort of tastes. But now, because we can get everything on Spotify, it's sort of more difficult to buy records as gifts, I find, nowadays. Unless you find like an old record or something like that. And the same is with books in some cases, I find. That sometimes people think, oh, what are the big famous books that people like, and trying to find something. But when you've got a sort of a type of book that people associate with you, and your friends associate with you, and they can just buy... They know what books to buy, and this is it. I think I've gotten this with my friends. They know what to get me now because I like folk stories, strange stories, weird bullshit, other such things. And this one is this book, the wonderfully named A Time to Dance A Time to Die. The extraordinary story of the dancing plague of 1518. I thought this was as a joke book, like as in, you know, a comedy sort of satire. No, it's a real event. Some of you are probably in this chat have heard of this. So in July, in 1518, a terrifying and mysterious plague strikes the medieval city of Strasbourg. Men and women dance wildly day after day in the punishing summer heat. Their feet blister and bleed, their limbs ache with fatigue, but they cannot stop. By the time the epidemic subsides, heat and exhaustion have claimed an untold number of lives. So this is a sort of documentary evidence sort of novel, like telling of this story of of a fucking plague, a disease that made you dance uncontrollably. I can't wait to read this because it's insane. But it was a wonderful birthday present, and yes, I highly recommend it. It's by John Waller. I haven't started it yet, but the title alone, it's one of those things. I'm worried that the title is so good that the book is never going to live up to that title. But well, you know, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. Now, I'm just going to scroll up the chat because we actually had someone mentioning about a book for the book clubs. The Shiny Baron said, I have another book for you. It's Bernard Cornwell of Sharkfoe, during the non-fiction account of the Battle of Waterloo. I have that book. Excellent choice on that one. Great minds think alike. It's inventively called Waterloo, and it is marvellous. So it's quite odd because I keep on expecting Sharp to appear in it because it's Bernard Cornwell doing a brilliant job. If you like Bernard Cornwell Sharp's books, it's basically Sharp with less sex, or Sharp. But it's well written. It's a great little sort of like story about how the battle comes together. And I like sort of, it's a book that I keep going back to it and coming back and going back to it and coming back. Because it's just a smashing read. So yeah, I completely agree with that one. Excellent choice. Let me know how you get on with it and what you think. And if any of you guys want to join in, and if any of you guys wanted to, if you find an interesting book or you're reading a book on public transport, or not necessarily, I mean, if you just want to join in this weird little book club, either with a review or just something you found that's caught your eye, just put it on social media, either tag me in it or put the hashtag British Rail Book Club, and we'll see if we can find it. Because when I'm stuck on a train, or not actually on the train, if I'm on a train I'm reading, if I'm stuck in a train station, I get very fucking bored, and finding out what people are reading is a very good way of doing things. And connected to that is my ever continuing search for Dune. So I have set myself the challenge of finding a copy of Dune in a charity shop or a second-hand bookshop. I have been doing this for a year now. I am bored of fucking hoping that it'll turn up. I thought there'd be tons of copies of Dune by Frank Herbert in every charity shop in the land. Not the case. They fucking disappeared. None of them. Anywhere. I found the sequels, so they're all over the place. But the original, can't fucking find it. And so what I'm asking from you lovely people, don't buy it for me, don't ship it for me, because that's just cheating. Like the Loch Ness Monster or the Yeti, I want to get your sightings. If you spot it somewhere, like sort of either take a photograph of it or just tell me, in this bookshop in this city, I found it. And then I will try and get there, unless of course it's in Finland, and then try and add it to my collection. Because I need a little bit of help, but I don't want to sort of just buy it on Amazon, because where's the fun in that? And also I need to have a think about what book I'm going to replace it with. But I've got to find it first, so let's not run before we can walk. So, we've got another in, perfect timing. We've got another, Francesca has just said, she's currently reading The Winter Spirits, short ghost stories set in the winter, mostly historical, mostly written by women and LGBT plus folk. That sounds smashing. Let me know how you get on with that and how good that is. Either just message me however you want, just because I'll be very interested to find out if that's any good. Because I'm not a fan of horror movies, but ghost stories are great because they just have that sort of, ooh. So, yes, send me a sign if you do spot a copy of Dune somewhere, and I'll try and find it. So, one of the other things I've been doing at the moment as well is like reconnecting with my love of Games Workshop. I've been saying to you guys previous streams that I've basically been selling a load of crap to make space and get rid of models that I haven't been using. I make a little bit of money, like everyone does. And so I've been selling some of my old Warmaster miniatures on eBay and selling them through and making a dent into my collection. and basically telling myself I'm not going to buy any more models until I've painted those ones. Which is, if you've ever played, if you're in the chat or listening at this at home and you play Warhammer, you're probably just laughing at this point because everyone says that and no one ever abides by it. So I've got my selection of models that I want to paint. I'm not doing any new ones until I get rid of the old ones and I get some time to sit down and paint them. The cliche of anyone that collects plastic miniatures. So I've started making a significant dent into the ones that I'm trying to sell. They're all going well, that's nice. I got bought a set of miniatures by my brother for my birthday, which was nice. A couple of new ones in, that's fine. But the main thing was, and not only did I remember that Games Workshop's prices are connected to my wages, i.e. however big my wage packet is, that's how much Warhammer models cost. It's just too much for my wages. I've never been into a Games Workshop in my entire life and thought that's a reasonable price. They're always like, that's just a bit too fucking expensive, quite frankly, so stick it up your Warhammer ass. But got some nice medals brought for me by my brother, which was lovely. And then when I was out at Board in the City in Southampton, if you're from Southampton, I do recommend it if you haven't been there already. A lovely little board game cafe run by volunteers. So if you have patience to deal with the sporadic service, they are all absolute lovely people in there, and they do a great job of teaching the games and such, and it's a wonderful atmosphere to have a good time in, and I adore it. It sort of reminds me of the art house and that kind of sort of community space, like an important shambles, that kind of thing, as I look at it. And so I went in there for my birthday and I found a copy of Dungeons and Dragons, the shitty board game version of it, and then bought it for £5 because I thought, well, it's got models in it and miniatures. So then I took it home, and then the next morning when I was sober, I realised I just bought a big old box filled with even more fucking miniatures for me to paint. And I don't mean like 5 or 6, I mean there's about 50 fucking miniatures in this fucking box, and I'm like, oh god, now I've got to paint those. I think Warhammer is one of the few hobbies where you actually just go, oh god, I need to do more of the thing that I like doing, because it's sort of almost like not a chore, but it's like, fine, I'll do this now. I've had to spend my life undercoating thousands of tiny skeleton men. But, you know, c'est la vie, it's going to be good fun. Before we go on to the next thing, we've got another thing in the chat, another message in the chat about book clubs and such and recommendations. Personally, I'm currently reading Guilty by Definition by Susie Dent. Yes, her off Countdown, which is weird because we just watched the IT Crowd and it's the Countdown episode, so there's a nice little bit of serendipity. It's about a bunch of I'm going to say this wrong, lexicographers, I think I said that right, trying to solve a murder mystery, weird but mildly compelling. That's a great phrase. I like that, weird but mildly compelling. So that's Sestrafield. Thank you very much for that. I'm used to saying people's screen names, which is why I said before why mine is one of the only people I think uses their actual name on Twitch, because I just can't be fucked to try and remember everything. But yes, thank you very much. Weird but mildly compelling. A lovely review. I like that. Very short, concise, but I get what you mean. That's definitely intrigued me. If you can sum up your book reviews in a similar kind of way, in a sort of like, Phil, you know, that's the sort of thing we need. I don't need you to come up with a full-on book review. Just a little sort of, is this, or if you like this, you'll like this, or, you know, a phrase like weird but mildly compelling to make me go, oh, okay, I'll give that a go. Or boring piece of shit, that's another useful thing, then I don't have to worry about it. So yes, thank you very much for that. Like I said, well, you've given me the review, so I've got to say, when you've read it a bit more, send me the hashtag, but you've given the review, so you've got me interested, so I'll go and find it. Thank you very much for that that review. Cool. Okay, so the last bit of what I've actually been doing rather than my actual work and preparing as a musician and learning songs, which I've been trying to do, and various other things, was watching rugby. I watched a lot of rugby at the weekend, and I nearly had a heart attack because England beat France. Spoilers if you're in the future and you don't know what the 2025 Six Nations results are for some reason. But yeah, it was, I didn't know quite how to to deal with that. I've not had, as an England fan, cause for hope or celebration for a long time. So it was a weird moment. I enjoyed that, and it was definitely a different. The reason I mention it is a different experience from when I went to watch the rugby the week before it's at Icebreaker in Portsmouth, because I was wearing my England top and dragged up to hell as well, which is great. Makeup, all that kind of stuff, with the dress on, in a pub that looked like it was like, if there was an election, most of it would be Reform. But you know, there's pubs where everyone just goes at each other when they talk, rather than laughing like normal people. They have a pub laugh, which is not their normal laugh. They have the pub laugh where they sort of disconnect their chin and just go one of those pubs. But watching it in there and watching the rugby was quite nice. But then afterwards, just putting up with wearing an England top for the rest of the evening, including playing a gig in an England top. I don't know why I played a gig in a rugby top. It's never. I've done it far too many times because I keep forgetting. Well, I keep booking gigs when there are rugby matches on, and then just turning up in a rugby jersey, which is not ideal if you're overheating. They retain heat because they're designed to be played in the middle of a grassy pitch covered in mud in the middle of winter, probably when snowing. So they retain heat really well. And one thing you don't want to do on stage is retain heat, which is why it was really weird that I was wearing an England top and a cardigan, because I'm an idiot. So yeah, there was the weird sort of depressed wearing an England top and a cardigan while playing a gig the week before. This week, I was sat in my lounge with my England top at a decent temperature, and England won. Smashing. So, yeah, there was that, which is... Oh, from the chat, oh, you look lovely. Oh, you're very kind, thank you very much. I felt fantastic. It was a very nice evening. But yeah, it was a very nice sort of weekend. There's a sort of, well, there's the last thing actually before we wrap things up, and it's a sort of a, I don't know, it's more of a kind of, let's try that sentence again. Put the teeth back in, have a little drink, and try that again. 1 second. So, a part of me of playing, it's a part of me of supporting being a self-employed musician and working towards like full-time work, just doing music. I have a part-time job where I work as an activities coordinator in a care home for people with dementia, various issues, health issues from just being really fucking old, because a lot of the guys I work with are really fucking old. And I experienced the first sort of death in the care home the week before last. A lovely woman whose name I can mention because being dead, it's not really a safeguarding issue. So I normally, because I've worked in care for years, this is the thing that I normally do to sort of for confidentiality reasons, and it just sort of covers all things nicely. I never normally talk about the names of the clients that I work with, in case there's something where it kind of can possibly affect them. I know it's overly sort of being protective, but I'd rather be overprotective of the people who are in my care than being negligent, if you know what I mean, even if it's just sort of casually. But the rules don't really apply when the person dies of old age. And there's this lovely woman called Esme, who was 99 years old, born in 1926. And she was I got to know her for only for a couple of weeks because I'd been there for a month, and she was a lovely lady, one of those sort of kind of matriarchal characters of the home. And she was really, really friendly with me when I first started working there. She's friendly with everyone. She always got to know absolutely everyone in the home, staff and residents. And there's two reasons I wanted to talk about it. Both are positive, by the way, because it's one of those things of like, when you're that old, and she was clearly content with her lot. She was only holding on, and this is by her own words, until her great-grandchild was born. And in that weird thing that human beings do, she kept to her word, and she literally, once she got the news that her great-grandchild had been born, her body shut down. And she died peacefully in her sleep. And that was it. She'd literally been holding on to that last moment, and her health had sort of been slowly dropping, but she managed to hold on that last amount of time. And she then realised, I'm happy with that. I've completed my life the way I wanted to, and was happy to sort of let go. And it was one of those things of like, machines weren't turned off. We're not that kind of home. We don't have like machines that keep people alive. We're not a hospital. We're a home that looks after people as long as physically possible, so they don't have to die in a hospital. They can die in their own home as best as possible. So it was just literally like, and spoke with the doctors, all done properly. It was all, you know, if you're worried about sort of neglect or anything like that, everything above board. And she just went. And it's one of those funny things that I find amazing about the human body. There's another story I'd like to tell you, but I'd love to tell you, but I can't because it's about one of my other clients who are still alive. But it's connected in that same sort of way. Not because of illness, or to do with an illness, but it's that strange thing that the human body does when it's sort of in difficult situations, or it just sort of, it can do things to make itself survive a bit longer, and then just go, right, done. Because it's her body, her spirit decided that she didn't want to die until she got a phone call from someone saying, you've got a great grandchild. And then something in her physiology just decided, that's it, done, and gone. Which is, I've always found fascinating about human beings, like the fact that the placebo effect works is one of those mad things, is that we can trick our bodies to think that a pill can make you feel better, so you start feeling better. So why the fuck can't the body just do that? Why does it have to be tricked? But it's the fact that this is one of the reasons I actually do enjoy working in various forms of care, where I worked predominantly with learning difficulties and such for years. It's the first sort of like dementia and elderly care that I've ever done, because it's sort of, I find it fascinating, as well as sort of a useful thing that I can help people with whilst working. But the other reason I wanted to talk to this about Esme is a little quote, a story that was told to me by my manager who worked with her, because we were chatting. Well, part of it was something that I saw, and it's something that she saw when we were just sharing stories. And it was this marvellous thing where I said, when working in a care home, you deal with some older people with outdated views, and your job as a carer is to just, it's their home. If they're going to be a tit, they're going to be a tit. You just let them talk. You don't debate with your elderly clients. Most of them have dementia anyway, so what's the point? If they're not being mean to your colleagues, or they're being mean to the other residents, who the fuck cares? So we just, normally when someone talks about something questionable, you just let the rant go, let the anger go, and then redirect or whatever. And this was one of those things where I thought one of these talks was going to happen. And I was watching the news, just because she liked to be kept up to date with the news. She read the papers, she'd read the local magazines of seeing what's going on in Southampton, and she was always gossiping with people, and had the news on. And it was talking about Trump. And she said this thing about, oh, this Trump person, I don't really like this Trump person, which is a good start. And then she sort of thought for a second, like, maybe it's a good thing he got elected. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Oh no. But I just she wants to tell me about something, so I'm going to listen. It's just like, yeah, because it's sort of, I think we've grown complacent about the idea of what freedom is. That we've got used to the idea of living in a good society, that maybe people need to have it threatened, so they pull their socks up and actually fight for the world that they love and the world that they live in. And it was this just calmly said, and this woman who's born in 1926, lived through the Second World War, so knows what that actually entails, and a sort of at an age that could actually comprehend a bit of what's going on. And it was just absolutely mad and really quite inspiring. And the story that I was told by my boss, who was talking about when I shared this story with them, they said, oh yeah, they had this other conversation with them one day, and they were saying, what was it? So someone said like a little comment to them. It's like, oh, do you miss the good old days? And then Esme said, again, 99 years old, The good old days? What do you mean the good old days? It's just like, if I look now, I have a phone in my hand where I can contact anyone in the world. We have medication and such and here. I've lived to 99 years old. I have my family around with me. I have better food than has ever existed. I've lived in the past. It's not as good as this. It could be better in some ways, but they're not the good old days. They were never good old days. They were the old days. Some things were good and some things were better. But just to presume that because it's older is automatically better is not a good idea. And it's sort of like, yeah, it was just this wonderful sort of philosophical thoughts that in her later life we sort of seem to think that people, when they're put into older care, that's it. And for some people, sadly, it is. And some people, because of medical conditions, it makes it that way. But some people use that time, and Ezra was one of them, to continue sort of thinking of ideas and thinking about the world around them. And it was just absolutely fascinating. I had the pleasure of knowing this woman for only a month before she died. And one of the interesting things, the final thing, and I'll stop being morbid and we'll get drunk and we'll do our post video chat, is that she used to sit in the front window and her bed would look outside and she'd wave at everyone would go past, and she'd been doing that for years. And so we thought we'd better let people know that she's no longer going to be there because they might worry. So they put the old-fashioned thing of putting the photograph in the window with some lilies. And is it lilies? The white one, isn't it lilies? Yeah, it is lilies. Yes. Anyway, the morning plants. You know what I mean. And Sal's probably going to correct me in the chat in a couple of seconds. And then when we were sort of in the garden or anything, we had people coming up and knocking on the door as well and stopping us when we were moving around, who would regularly go past and see her and pass on their condolences. And some people were actually really, when they saw the plants and saw the picture, actually sort of quite tearfully talked to us. I think it was Lily of the Valley, yes, from the chat, thank you. Would get quite teary because they said this jolly woman that used to just wave every morning when they went to work or they're delivering the post or something. And they all had this massive effect of a woman they'd never spoken to, but they just saw there every day. And it's just that interesting thing of what a person leaves behind on that sort of thing and how people can affect each other in that different kind of way. And also how this person was just continuing to live her best life as best she could, even though there were lots of physical issues she was having. And she just lived her life how she wanted to, right up until the day she died. So I just thought the reason I just talked about this in a kind of rambling way, I just thought it was a nice way for me to sort of remember this person that I met. So without further ado, just is raising a glass to Esme. So wherever she's gone, she's probably having a cracking time while she's there. So yeah, sad ending to the show. A bit sad now. Anyway, yes, but anyway. Got told news that one of the other clients is looking like they're in end-of-life care as well. So there may be another eulogy episode in a week or so. Oh dear. But that's just one of those things. If you work in a care home with older people, that's just one of those things. Wonderful life stories, lots of laughs and such, but the ever-present threat of death, which I suppose makes dementia care all that more exciting. Sorry, I've just upset myself saying that. Oh dear. Right, my friends, thank you very much for joining me this evening. So that's what I've been up to. In summary, what have I been doing? Well, what I've meant to been doing, I've meant to be writing, practicing some tunes from the new album that I'm going to play for you guys in a mini little concert thing and put out available on Patreon for you guys to check out at your leisure. And when that goes out, I'll put it on all social media and such. You should be able to find it and download it if you're a member of our Patreon. And part of that as well, I'm going to be putting all the Fizzy Brain episodes that we have up for you guys to download on demand, even if you're a part of the free tier on Patreon. So everyone will get that, apart from the first episode, as was pointed out in the chat, because I didn't press the right button and accidentally lost it. Yeah, one of those things. Awkward Strawberry events have gone up, so you can find all the links and such. been doing that on Facebook. So yeah, ticketsource.co.uk/awkward-strawberry. Saying that Mad Misfit may not be joining us in Newstead. The quiz thing, it could go well, it could go fucking terribly. We'll find out over the next few weeks. And I've been getting loads of support and emails from people. What I've actually been working on is getting a rug, getting a book about death dancing, and makeup, getting Dungeons and Dragons, trying to sell models, getting more models, being pleasantly surprised that England won at the rugby, realising again that Games Workshop is fucking expensive, and also realising that death gives a poignancy to human life, while it's also a massive dick. So there we go, that's what the summary of tonight's show. So before we go, a little reminder, gigs coming up, tickets available, like I said, ticketsource.co.uk/awkward-strawberry. Got the pub quiz tomorrow, that's the 12th at the Dell in Southampton. Do come along if you're in Southampton or available. You want to see what a pub quiz looks like, hosted by me. On the 14th of February, we have the Awkward Strawberry Club, the first of its mighty returns, featuring a selection of artists from all over the place. That's the 14th at the Hobbit in Southampton. If you're a member of Patreon, you get in for free. Just let me know. That's if you're a paid member of Patreon. If you want to join me, come along and I will let you in through the back door. I put you on the guest list. We've got the 27th of February, there's a free gig at the Tup in Swindon with B-SYDES. The 28th of February in Newstead is a ticketed gig at the Pit with a selection of tasty friends, including B-SYDES. Hopefully Madam Misfit if she gets better, but I think it's not going to be the case. And also the marvellous Sam Tucker. Again, because it's my show and I'm organising it, if you are a member of the paid up Keeping Aubrey on the Road Club, you can get in for free. Just give me a message beforehand and I will add you to the guest list. Then we have a free gig in London at the Two Bridges with Tom B. Wild, which is going to be marvellous. Then I am treading the boards at the MAST Theatre in Southampton on the 19th of March on the part of the local talent showcase with me, part of the production called Call Me Mother, which should be interesting, side of the acting and such. If you want to reach out, search for me on all the different things as Aubrey Blakeledge. I'm not very imaginative. I didn't come up with interesting names. So it's either aubrey.blakeledge or Aubrey Blakeledge, all one words. So search for me on Blue Sky, Threads, Faceache, Instabland. I've removed myself from Hitler's waiting room. X, if you want to know what I was talking about. I'm setting my stuff up on Bandcamp, which is also where I'll be putting the sessions that I'll be recording on Twitch on there as well, if you want to support music there. Spotify, search for the Sweet Chunks Band. I will eventually be setting up an Aubrey Blakeledge Spotify as well. Patreon is where the best place if you want to keep an eye on what I'm doing and what weird stuff is going on, where you can join for the free tier, where you'll have access to all of the back issues of this very podcast, where you can download it and listen to it on your own sweet time, or watch the videos if you like. On YouTube you can also have access to my listings and what's coming on, where the releases and such like that as well. And I highly recommend you go on there, check out some of the artists that I'm recommending, and follow as many of your favourite bands on there as possible. You can also pay me £3 a month and have access to all kinds of tasty treats and lots of free stuff and lots of music, including the music I'm going to be recording on here and releasing for download. So yeah, there's all that kinds of bits and pieces. And if you're listening on the podcast or you're watching on YouTube, join us on Twitch, because at the end of this broadcast I'm going to put my camera over there somewhere, sit down in a comfy chair, drink a load of gin, talk utter rubbish with the glorious people in the chat, have some really weird tangents, and we always do, and then come up with basically it's a long-winded way of us working out what the fuck we're going to call this episode when I put it up on YouTube. So yeah, come and join us, give me a follow on the Twitch. Big celebration today because we're on 45. I've got 45 followers on Twitch. Yay! We're getting there. And 30 followers on Patreon as well. So it's, yeah, we're doing all right. Doing okay. So thank you all of you for watching this, for downloading it, listening to it, to every follow, every time you've looked at me on social media, downloading my music, buying my music, all these other things. Sincerely, thank you so very much, because I wouldn't have anything to talk about on this podcast unless you guys were supporting me, because I wouldn't be able to do the things I do in my podcast. So sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so very much. We'll be back next Tuesday to do the usual bits and pieces where we'll be talking about weird stuff. We'll see if the pub quiz is still going. And I've got the Awkward Strawberry Club, so I'll be telling you all about that and some of the lovely musicians we'll be working through. And also I'm going to start by chatting with musicians at the Awkward Strawberry Club, a little bit of a preview for the future, about getting some time for them to do a guest part on this podcast where I'll record a quick interview in the same format as the show. So what they're meant to be working on and what they've actually been working on, and see if that works. And then we'll load that into this and you can have a little pre-recorded version and that sort of stuff. Great, all kinds of things. And then I'll have to work out how the flying fuck I'm going to stream that. Oh well, that's a problem for me later on. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, unless of course you're joining me in the stream chat afterwards. If you have a drink in your hand, raise it up and put it in your face. Good night.